Welcome to Film and Editing Club's first video. Today we're just going to be going over some basics, kind of getting you used to the software that we're going to be using mainly, which is Sony Vegas Pro 13, 14, and 15. This can look very intimidating at first because there's a lot of buttons, there's a lot of lines, and there's a lot of things that just look like it would be hard to do, but it's really simple. So we're going to start out with the basic stuff, so once we get into the more advanced stuff that they actually use in films and we show you how to make those, it won't be that hard to do. So the very first step you ever want to do is on the top right, there's something that looks kind of like a little file folder, and you click that whenever you want to import media. So whether you're taking your footage from a camera, from your phone, from anything, you click that button, search through your documents, your downloads, anywhere where you have the video or photo stored, and then you take that, you click on it, and it comes in this left hand box right here. This under project media is going to show all your media that you have, everything that you imported, whether or not it's in your timeline, which is underneath right there, and that long horizontal section is where you're actually going to edit. The top sections are just kind of information, such as showing you a preview of your picture, showing you what clips are in your timeline, or even showing you what effects you can put on your video. So you take your clip and you drag it down from that top left space and you put it onto your timeline. There's your first clip. The top part is going to be your video, and the part that has a bunch of lines and looks kind of like a wave, that's your audio. And these kind of are, obviously the two main parts of a film, video, and audio. And these can be trim and split. So what I mean by splitting, it's actually really simple. You go to anywhere in the video that you want to kind of split up the video or have it into two, or even take it away. So say I want to go here right to the middle of the video and I don't want the rest of the video, or I just want there to be a pause, or I want to put some edit in between. So to cut the video up, all you have to do is press the S key on your computer. And we have all these videos that the club is going to be making on our channel, and we'll definitely link that on our mind. So if you want to do this at home with your actual computer, because obviously the school computers can't run these programs, you can do it and you can rewatch the videos and you can learn everything in depth, because I know for some people they like to learn slower and kind of rewatch the videos. And if you don't want to click S, you can right click right where you want to split the clip, and you can go down right where it says split and just click left on your mouse key. Now say you don't want the end of a clip, say you made some mistake or you just don't like how the end turned out, so you want to completely take the end out. What you're going to do is you're going to hold the very end of the clip, and you're going to hold that and you're going to drag it with your mouse to where you want it to stop. So what that does is that takes away all of your rest of the clip that you don't want and just leaves you with the remaining clip that you wanted. And this can obviously be obtained back if you just hold there and drag it to the right. But either way, this is a faster way than splitting, because with splitting, what you have to do is you have to press that where you want to split it, and then you have to click S or right click and click on split, and then you have to also delete the clip. So if you want to totally delete the end or beginning of a video, the fastest way to do that is just to trim the video. And you can do the same thing with the beginning. If you don't want the beginning, or you just don't like how the beginning turned out, and you want to take all of the beginning out, you can just hold the very beginning of that clip and just hold and drag to the right, and that'll take all of the beginning of the clip out, and you'll be left with just what you want. One thing you have to remember every time you put a clip in Sony Vegas Pro 11, 12, 13, anything, is you always have to disable resample. What this means is basically gets rid of any motion blur. So when you put the default clip into the timeline, it's just gonna have a little bit what some people call the ghosting effect. So there's kind of like a lag. It just looks really weird, and to prevent that, all you have to do is you have to right click on the clip and go down to what it says disable resample. And this is kind of hard to remember, but I would recommend doing it right as you put in the clip so you don't forget. And it's very important, because if you don't do it and you finish your whole film and then you have your final product and you render it and everything, it just won't look as good. There will be this weird kind of ghosting effect on the video. So now we're going to be talking about slow motion and speeding up a clip. This is something that's used a lot in a lot of different films, and it's a super convenient thing. It can be used in a lot of different ways, so it's nice that in Sony Vegas Pro there is a very fast way to do this. So all you have to do really is hold the end of the clip if you want to slow it down, and just drag to the right while pressing control. So you hold the end of the clip, the very last line, and you press control and you drag your mouse to the right. That'll slow down the clip. What you have to be aware of also is that not only your video will be slowed down, your audio will be slowed down as well. So your audio, will sound just kind of weird after you slow it down, but you can fix that later by kind of splitting up the audio and the video, which we'll get into. So when those zigzag lines in kind of the blue section on the timeline become wider, that means you're slowing down a clip. As those lines kind of become farther apart, it's showing that the video is becoming slowed down. And speeding up is also just as easy. If you want to speed up a clip, all you have to do is hold the very end of the clip, and you have to just press control, hold, and move your mouse to the left this time. So you hold control and right to slow down the video, and hold control and left to speed up the video. So as you can see in the blue, the zigzag lines are have a very small distance in between them, and they're kind of dense. So that means that the video is being speeded up because the audio and the video is closer together. So editing is really just a combination of all of these, because these are all very small tools that can be applied to any clip, any video, any even picture, even audio. And so all these combinations and all of these effects is really what makes the final product, and that's why editing is so fun to see, because you work all the way from the very raw thing, your raw data or your raw video, and you go all the way to what the final thing is, and that's what the best part is. But obviously this program, it kind of does look intimidating. There's a lot of buttons. It kind of looks because it is professional, it's what actual filmmakers use, and that's why it's very complicated. But the buttons are actually very easy to use once you figure it out, and all this stuff really makes sense. The top left of the timeline, that's where the time is, and then you have your frames, and 30 frames is equal to 1 second, and that's just a weird measurement that a lot of editors use, so they can be very precise. You have to go frame by frame and edit each frame, so that's why 1 second is equal to 30 frames. And there's, as you can see on the left, there's 0.0 dB. So dB is a unit of measurement for audio. So if you have negative dB, that means your volume is going to be quieter, versus if you have positive dB, your volume is going to be way louder, and that can obviously be changed as well. So now we're going to be talking about fading in and fading out either a clip, which can be a video, audio, or even a picture. It can be really anything that you're going to be putting into your film, and it can make for some cool effects. And fade in or fade out it's a really simple term for just saying coming in for black. So if you have a black screen and the video is slowly becoming brighter and brighter, or if the video is slowly becoming fading into black, say at the end of a film, that's kind of what fading in and fading out is. This can also be done with the audio. If you have a really loud audio and you want to kind of transition to a quieter scene, then you can lower or fade out the end of the audio and just make the clip sound better. So in Sony Vegas Pro, this is really easy to do, because this is something that is used quite often, so they made it very convenient. So all you really have to do is you come to the very end of a clip. This is for fading in, and you want to make sure you go to the very top corner of the clip, because as you can see, if you go to the very kind of left of this clip, then you see a different symbol. You kind of see that line. That means trimming the start or the end. So what we talked about earlier, where if you want to completely get rid of the end of a clip or completely get rid of the beginning, that's trimming. But if you go to the top left, you see a different symbol. You kind of see that curve. That's fading in. So if you hold that and move your mouse to the right, you're gonna see that diagonal line, and that means it's gonna be fading in. And you can see it says fade in offset, and it says the time. That's how much time it's gonna take for the video to go from black to the 100% brightness. And this can also be done at the end of a clip. You can just hold at the very last kind of end of the clip, and you hold and you move your mouse to the left, and you can see that diagonal line again, and this shows that your video is being fading out. Again, you got to be careful you're not clicking trim event, because that will totally get rid of the beginning or your end of a clip. You know, if you want to fade in, that's definitely not what you want to do. So this can also be done with the audio. You can do the exact same thing. Go to the top corner of the beginning of the audio, hold and move your mouse to the left or to the right, or at the end of the video, click on the audio portion, go to the top right of the audio bar, which is, you know, that audio wave bar with the red color, and you go on the top right and you hold with your mouse and you move to the left, and now you'll show you the same diagonal line, and that's showing that your audio is fading out. So say like going from very loud, like people talking, to just silence. So now we're at the final part of making a video. All you want to do is render, and once rendering is finished, your video is done. You can post it, you can share it, you can do whatever with it, and this is kind of the final step. So before you render, make sure all your clips have disable resample on there, so that ghosting effect is not on any of your clips. This is kind of a big mistake, because a lot of the times I'll make everything and I'll be fully done and I'll render my video and it'll be done, and then I go back to watch it and the ghosting effect is on there. So you have to go back, you have to go individually clip by clip and disable resample. So the best thing to do is really just, as soon as you put the clip in the beginning, just try to remember to disable resample, because rendering does take a long time depending on your computer specs, obviously, but for an average person it does take a few minutes to few hours actually. So you want to make sure, you know, everything's good before you click render. So once you're done, you want to double click your video. You'll see those two kind of triangles on the very top of the timeline. So right where it has the frames and the seconds, you will see those two yellow dots, and what that is, and that highlighted area between those two yellow triangles, is how much of your video you want to render. How much of it do you actually want to become the video? So in this case, obviously we want the whole video to render, because you know, you want the whole video. So all you have to do is click on that very small yellow portion and hold it and drag it to where you want to hold it. So in this case, we're going to hold it and drag it to the very end of where our film ends. So we make sure that it only renders that part, and our video is only from 0 seconds to the very end of when our film ends. Because as you can see, this program, it still goes on after the video ends. After the video ends, there's just a bunch of blank space and nothing. When there's no clips, no audio, it's just going to be a black screen. So you obviously don't want that at the very end. You just want it to end, and that's going to be it. So you want to have the yellow dot be at the very end of the clip, and your other yellow dot at the very beginning of your video. So to render, you click File, Render As, and here what you want to do is you want to click where you want to save it. So where it says folder, you can click, normally I do documents, but you can do downloads, desktop, anything you want, really. It's up to you. And then a name, you can choose what you want to save it as. So this isn't actually what, you know, other people are going to see. It's just what in your computer you can look it up as and what the file is going to be called. So there's a lot of options for rendering. This really depends on how you want your film to look. If you want it to look slow and very dramatic, you want to have the frame set as normally 27 frames per second. This will give your film kind of a dreamy sort of look. It'll be slow, but obviously not like choppy or slow motion. It'll just look it'll flow well. If you want your video to be fast, if it's an action video, if you know it's a video about sports, then you probably want 30 or 60 frames per second. This will make the video look very smooth and fast action shots. So it really depends on what you want to shoot. Obviously the higher quality you go up, the higher frames you go up, the longer it's going to take your video to render, but obviously I think that's worth it in some cases. By the way, in general, frames per second is just telling you how well or how slow or how fast your video is going to flow. So in 1 second, you know, normally in the editing program you edit it as 1 second being 30 frames, so it's saying like in 1 second how many frames are there going to be. So in 27, in 1 second there's going to be 27 frames, and what that does, it just makes the video a little bit slower, and it's just not going to be as fast paced. So for the purpose of this, I'm just going to go with the default setting. It takes up to even like 20 minutes to have the right setting, because there's a lot of things you have to go to, so maybe we'll save that for another meeting. because you have to go through the audio, the video, every small detail, and there's a lot of things in that to describe and explain. So, and that also depends where it says render loop region only, you want to make sure that's checked, because what that does is the yellow points that we set, the loop region, that is the loop region. So checking that is basically making sure that your video is only being start to finish only that clip. There's not going to be any excess black, because obviously that just looks unprofessional. And then all you have to click after that is render, and you're done. Obviously before this you want to make sure you have the file saved, so you go to file and click save as, and change the name to whatever you want, and then click save. But you want to make sure to save, because if your Sony Vegas crashes, which happens a lot with computers that don't have that good of specs or can't run that well, you want to make sure that you don't lose everything, because editing is kind of time consuming. So once you click render, that's it. It will take some time to render, so just stay back from your computer. You can still use it, just as long as you have it on the background, it'll be fine, and it'll let you know when the video is done. And right when the video is done, you don't have to do anything. You can just close the program, and it'll automatically save to your downloads or your desktop or wherever you selected to save it to while rendering. So that's been the main basics for Sony Vegas Pro for this club, at least. Next meeting and meetings further on, we're going to be doing more in-depth stuff. Obviously, like, we're going to be looking at films, actual films, and we're going to be showing you guys how to make those exact techniques. But just to give you a background, we wanted to make sure how the program kind of works and the basics behind it. So once we show the other ideas, which like green screen, like there's just so much stuff, so once we show those, it won't be that hard to grasp, because obviously the program does look intimidating at first. So thank you for coming to this meeting. We'll meet every Wednesday in G4 Mrs. Baum's room, and yeah, see you guys next meeting.